I helped my attractive boss set up her shelves, and she let me see a side of her she keeps hidden. The space station outside his window was alive with activity. Shuttles coming and going, maintenance drones floating silently, and the faint glimmer of stars beyond the reinforced glass. It was another ordinary day at Solara Research Station, a hub for human exploration at the edge of the star system. At least it should have been ordinary. "Hey, Kai," a voice called from the doorway. He looked up to see Leora, his boss. She was always calm and collected, a natural leader with a sharp mind. Even under pressure, her presence seemed to make the chaos of the station fade away. Kai admired her intelligence and precision, though he hardly expected to ever know her personally. Today, however, that was about to change. "Kai, could you give me a hand in the storage lab?" Leora asked. "The shelves there are a mess, and I want them organized before the inspection team arrives tomorrow." Kai blinked. Helping organize shelves didn't sound like the most exciting task in the universe, but when Leora smiled, a small, enigmatic smile, he found himself nodding immediately. There was something about the way she asked that made it impossible to say no. "I'll be there in 5, he replied. He grabbed his toolkit and hurried through the corridors, the soft hum of the station echoing around him. He wondered why such a capable leader would be concerned about shelves. Surely there were more important matters. But curiosity, as always, got the better of him. The storage lab was tucked in a quiet corner of the station. As Kai entered, he was surprised. The room was much larger than he had imagined, filled with towering shelves packed with crates, boxes, and containers of all shapes and sizes. What caught his attention first, however, were the objects on the upper shelves, artifacts that shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights. They weren't ordinary supplies or tools. Some had intricate engravings, others pulsed with soft blue energy, and a few seemed to move slightly as if they were aware of his presence. "Impressive, isn't it?" Leora's voice broke his reverie. She was standing on a small ladder, adjusting a crate carefully. Kai hadn't noticed her climb up, so silent and deliberate were her movements. "Not everyone understands their value, but each one tells a story." Kai hesitated. "Stories? I thought these were just research items." He gestured toward a metallic cylinder etched with alien symbols. "They are research items," Leora said, carefully sliding a crate into place. "But they are also pieces of history, artifacts from the first contact missions. Every shape, every mark, every pattern has meaning. Most people only see the surface, but I like to study them carefully." Kai felt a thrill of excitement. He had worked in research for years, but he had never met anyone who treated alien artifacts with such reverence. Most people just cataloged them, moved them from one shelf to another, and moved on. Leora's approach was different. She treated each object as if it had a soul, as if it were alive in some way. It was a side of her he had never seen, a side that she kept hidden behind her professional demeanor and sharp leadership. "I can help," he said eagerly. "Where should we start?" Leora smiled again, the small curve of her lips hinting at something mischievous. "We start with the upper shelves. Careful, though. Some of these items are sensitive. You can't just move them like ordinary crates." Kai nodded, taking extra care as he reached for a box. His fingers trembled slightly when he lifted it. The crate was light, almost too light for its size, and inside was a small device that hummed softly. When he held it closer, faint holographic symbols appeared in the air above it, like a miniature star map. He gasped softly. "You see," Leora said, watching him, "most people don't even notice the projections, but if you pay attention, you can learn a lot about the civilization that created them." Kai was fascinated. He had studied alien technology extensively, but seeing it in this way, so delicate, so precise, was like looking at a living puzzle. He carefully returned the device to the crate. "How do you even know how to handle this?" he asked. "I would have been afraid of breaking it." Leora shrugged, stepping down from the ladder. "Experience, patience, and curiosity. The artifacts respond to respect. If you try to force them, nothing works, but if you approach them carefully, they will reveal themselves. As they worked together, Kai noticed something strange. Leora had a method in how she arranged the items on the shelves. It wasn't random and it wasn't purely practical. There was a pattern, almost like a hidden language. He started asking questions. Why here? Why group these together? Leora's eyes lit up. Ah, you notice. Good. I arrange them by what they can teach us about communication. Some species are visual learners, some respond to energy patterns, others to sound. When we catalog them this way, we can study their thought processes, even without words. Kai was amazed. He had never seen anyone combine scientific rigor with creativity in such a seamless way. It was more than organization, it was insight. He realized that Leora had a mind that could see connections where others saw chaos. This was her hidden side, her ability to uncover patterns, to interpret intelligence, to connect dots that no one else could. Why haven't you shown this to anyone? He asked quietly. Some things are better kept private, she said, her gaze drifting to the shimmering shelves. If everyone saw everything I knew, it would be overwhelming. And sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyes to notice what you've missed. She turned to him, her expression softening. You're noticing, aren't you? Kai nodded. Yes, I think I understand now why you care about these shelves so much. They continued working in silence for a while, moving crates, cataloging items, and discussing their properties. Kai found himself learning more from this afternoon than from months of formal training. He watched Leora carefully, noting the precision in her movements, the way she seemed to anticipate which item would be needed next, and the quiet joy she found in her work. It was a side of her no one else saw, the side that made her brilliant, human, and fascinating all at once. As the afternoon stretched into evening, Kai finally stepped back to admire their progress. The shelves were organized in a way that was both functional and insightful. Each crate and artifact had its place, and the hidden patterns were now visible to him. Leora stood beside him, her expression unreadable, but he sensed a quiet approval. You did well today, she said. Not everyone can notice what I notice, but you did. Kai felt a swell of pride. It wasn't just about helping her. It was about understanding, learning, and connecting. For the first time, he realized that even in a world full of technology and alien mysteries, there was still something uniquely human that mattered: curiosity, patience, and the desire to see beyond the surface. Thank you, he said. I've learned a lot today. Leora nodded. Good, keep that curiosity. It will take you far here. And remember, there's always more to see than what's obvious, especially when it comes to people and artifacts. Kai smiled. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. Helping Leora with the shelves had opened a door to knowledge, to discovery, and perhaps to a deeper understanding of the human spirit itself. And he couldn't wait to see what was on the other side. As he left the storage lab, he glanced back at the organized shelves, at the softly glowing artifacts, and at Leora, who had returned to her quiet work. Something inside him had shifted. The ordinary task of moving crates had turned into an extraordinary lesson about patience, intelligence, and hidden talents. And he had only just begun to see what made humans, and his boss, truly remarkable. The next morning, Kai arrived at the research station earlier than usual. The hum of the life support systems greeted him like an old friend. Today, he was not just curious, he was eager. After yesterday's work in the storage lab, he could not stop thinking about the artifacts and the hidden side of Leora he had glimpsed. He found her already at the lab, carefully examining a small device that floated in a soft blue glow above the shelf. The device was one of the smaller alien artifacts, about the size of a human hand, but it pulsed with a gentle energy. Leora's hands hovered above it and she moved them slowly, almost like conducting an invisible orchestra. "Good morning, Kai," she said without looking up. "I see you are early." "Good morning," he replied, trying to sound casual, though his heart raced with anticipation. I thought I could help, maybe continue where we left off yesterday. Leora finally looked up, her sharp eyes softened by a hint of amusement. I am glad you are curious. That is exactly the quality I need in my assistants. Come, I want to show you something you haven't seen yet. Kai followed her deeper into the lab. Behind a row of shelves, she stopped at a section he had not noticed before. The shelves here were smaller, and most of the crates had simple labels, or so he thought. On closer inspection, he realized the labels were in a strange code. The letters and symbols shifted as he stared, almost as if the language itself was alive. These, Leora said, are my personal research notes. I keep them separate because they are not just data. They are patterns, ideas, connections that no one else might see at first glance. Kai leaned closer, fascinated. Patterns? Yes, Leora replied, tapping one of the crates. Each artifact, each sample, each recording tells a story. Some stories are obvious, others are hidden. I study them to understand how other civilizations think, and sometimes how to predict their actions. Kai's eyes widened. Predict their actions. The idea was both exciting and slightly intimidating. He had studied alien cultures academically, but Leora's method seemed far beyond theory. She was interpreting intelligence itself, like reading the mind of a species through its artifacts. Can you show me? He asked eagerly. Leora nodded and carefully retrieved a small sphere from the shelf. It floated gently in her hands, radiating a soft green light. As she moved her fingers, a holographic display appeared above it, showing a series of intricate patterns. Lines connected nodes, and symbols shifted in ways that made Kai feel as though he were looking at a living map of thought. This, she said, is a projection of communication patterns from the Zelari species. Their minds are networked differently than humans. They think in layers, almost like overlapping thoughts. Most humans would never understand this at first glance, but I can. And now, with your help, I want to see what patterns you notice. Kai stared at the display, feeling both awe and nervousness. He could see connections forming, subtle rhythms in the symbols and shifts in intensity. He pointed to a cluster. These symbols here, they repeat, but slightly differently each time. Could it indicate a form of emotion? Leora's eyes lit up. Exactly. Very few people notice that. Most would dismiss it as noise, but you see the variation. That is the hidden communication layer. Good observation, Kai. He felt a rush of pride, not just for being correct, but for finally feeling like he belonged in this hidden world of discovery. For hours, they worked together. Leora guided him gently, never rushing, always allowing him to notice patterns for himself. They examined more artifacts, decoded alien symbols, and even tested some devices to see how they responded to energy fields and human interaction. Each discovery revealed something new, not just about the aliens, but about Leora herself. Kai realized she had an extraordinary mind. She could analyze vast amounts of information, see patterns others missed, and remain calm under pressure. She was brilliant, yet humble, never boasting about her knowledge. That combination, he thought, was what made her truly remarkable. During a short break, Kai asked the question that had been lingering in his mind. Leora, why keep this side hidden? Why not share it with the rest of the station? She leaned back, considering the question. Leadership is more than knowledge, she said thoughtfully. It is about timing, about knowing what to reveal and when. If I shared everything at once, most people would be overwhelmed, or worse, they would rely on me too much. I want others to grow, to think, to discover on their own. Knowledge is most powerful when it challenges you. Kai nodded slowly. He began to understand. The shelves were not just storage. They were lessons, tests, and guides for those who paid attention. Leora's hidden side was her ability to teach without imposing, to reveal without forcing, to inspire curiosity. Their work was interrupted by a soft alarm from one of the devices. A holographic projection appeared above a medium-sized crate, showing a map of the surrounding star system. A small blip moved toward the colony at a speed too fast for ordinary ships. An incoming object, Kai said, frowning. Leora's eyes narrowed, but she remained calm. Not a threat yet. This is why we study patterns. That object is following a predictable trajectory, but there are anomalies in its movement. Watch. She manipulated the projection, highlighting the anomalies. The blip's path shifted slightly, as if responding to something unknown. Kai felt a shiver of excitement. This was more than a simple task. It was a puzzle, a mystery waiting to be solved. Can we predict where it will go? He asked. Not completely, Leora admitted. But we can make educated guesses. And that is exactly what humans are good at: adapting, predicting, thinking creatively when patterns are not perfect. They spent hours analyzing the trajectory, discussing possible explanations. Could it be a natural phenomenon, a rogue probe, or perhaps something else entirely? Each theory led to another, and with every discussion, Kai realized he was learning not just about the universe, but about how Leora's mind worked: methodical, patient, and yet open to possibilities. By late evening, the immediate calculations were done. The object's path was plotted for the next several hours, giving the colony time to respond if necessary. Kai leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. I can't believe how much I've learned today. Not just about the artifacts, but about how you think, how you see things. Leora smiled softly, a rare warmth in her expression. And that is why I brought you here, Kai. Curiosity is a gift, but so is patience and observation. You are learning to use both. That is the beginning of understanding. For the first time, Kai felt like he was seeing the real Leora. Not just the leader, but the thinker, the teacher, the hidden genius who shaped her knowledge quietly, almost invisibly. He realized that this side of her was even more inspiring than her public persona. As they closed the lab for the night, Kai looked at the organized shelves one more time. He could see the hidden patterns, the subtle arrangements, and the carefully curated artifacts. He could sense the patience, the intelligence, and the insight that Leora had poured into every shelf, every crate, every object. Walking back to his quarters, Kai thought about what tomorrow might bring. The mysterious object was still on the path toward the colony, and he had no idea what secrets it might hold. But he was no longer intimidated. With Leora's guidance, he felt ready to face the unknown, to uncover hidden patterns, and to see the universe not just as it appeared, but as it truly was, full of possibilities, full of lessons, and full of humanity. And for the first time, he understood that sometimes the most extraordinary discoveries were not the artifacts themselves, but the people who helped you see them clearly. The morning light filtered through the reinforced windows of Solara Research Station, painting the metallic corridors with streaks of gold. Kai hurried toward the storage lab, his mind buzzing with thoughts about the mysterious object Leora had discovered yesterday. It moved in a way that defied ordinary expectations, its trajectory hinting at something intelligent, something not fully understood. When he entered the lab, Leora was already there, studying the holographic map of the star system. The blip representing the unknown object hovered midair, flickering slightly as the projection updated in real time. "Good morning," she said without turning. "I see you are punctual as always." Kai smiled, trying to hide the tension in his chest. "I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it, the object. What could it be?" Leora finally looked at him, her eyes steady and calm. "We don't know yet, Kai. And for now, we don't need to assume it is dangerous. What we do need is understanding. That is always the first step." She handed him a tablet displaying data collected overnight. "Analyze this trajectory. Look for inconsistencies, deviations, anything unusual. Use the patterns we discussed." Kai nodded eagerly, focusing on the numbers. The object's movement was almost perfect, yet there were subtle fluctuations, tiny shifts that suggested it was adjusting its path deliberately. It wasn't random, but it wasn't predictable either. His heart raced. After a few minutes, he spoke. It's responding to something in the system, gravitational anomalies maybe, or signals, but the pattern is too regular for natural phenomena. Leora stepped closer, her expression thoughtful. Yes, I suspected as much. That means it is aware, not in a human sense, but it is reacting to its environment intelligently. Kai's mind whirled. Intelligent behavior from an unknown object was exciting, but also a little frightening. Most of the station's inhabitants would panic, but Leora's calm confidence grounded him. Could it be hostile? He asked quietly. Possibly, she said, but it could also be curious or simply exploring. We cannot know intentions without observation. This is why understanding patterns is crucial. Fear comes from uncertainty. Knowledge comes from observation. Kai felt a surge of respect. He had never realized how much leadership relied on calm thinking and careful analysis. Leora wasn't just brilliant in theory. She was brilliant under pressure. They spent the morning tracking the object's trajectory, adjusting their calculations, and comparing its behavior to known species. Kai noticed that the object's shifts seemed to respond to specific energy fields emitted by some of the alien artifacts stored on the shelves. Look at this, he said, pointing at the holographic display. Every time we move the small sphere from yesterday, the object's path shifts slightly. It's responding to energy outputs like a sensor. Leora's eyes brightened. Interesting. That confirms it is reactive and it can interpret environmental signals. This is precisely the kind of discovery that could teach us about alien intelligence. Kai felt a thrill run through him. He had never thought a routine day helping organize shelves would lead to first contact science. The hum of excitement in the lab was electric, but it was tempered by the responsibility of understanding something that could be dangerous. They worked through the afternoon, testing various artifacts and observing the object's responses. The sphere and a small metallic cube seemed to communicate in subtle pulses of light and energy, creating patterns in the holographic display. Each pattern revealed a layer of intelligence, as though the object and the artifacts were engaged in a silent conversation. You see, Kai, Leora said, watching his eyes widen, this is why the shelves are important. Each item is more than what it seems. Together they create a network of knowledge. Patterns emerge. Connections reveal themselves. And in that network, we see the intelligence behind the unknown. Kai nodded, absorbing every word. He realized that the hidden side of Leora was not just her knowledge, but her ability to see connections that others could not. Her vision extended beyond the immediate, encompassing not just artifacts but behaviors, patterns, and possibilities. By evening, they had gathered enough data to make some predictions. The object would approach the outer edge of the colony in a few hours, giving them a limited window to observe and, if necessary, intervene. Kai felt a mixture of fear and excitement. "Are we ready?" he asked. Leora's expression was calm, almost serene. "We cannot be fully ready for the unknown, Kai, but we can prepare as much as possible. That is what humans do best. We adapt, we learn, we create solutions where none exist. That is our advantage." Kai smiled. Her words filled him with determination. The unknown no longer seemed intimidating. With careful observation and creativity, they could face it together. As the object drew closer, a subtle hum filled the lab. The holographic projection pulsed with energy, casting moving shadows across the walls. Kai and Leora exchanged a glance. The object was close enough now to reveal more details. "Focus on the signals," Leora instructed. "Notice the patterns. What does it respond to?" Kai leaned forward, analyzing the energy pulses. The object reacted more strongly to the cube, which emitted a soft green glow. Each pulse from the cube seemed to prompt a corresponding shift in the object's trajectory, almost like a nod in recognition. It's communicating," Kai whispered. "Not with words, but with signals," Leora nodded. "Exactly. And that is why humans are remarkable. We can interpret patterns, adapt our responses, and find meaning in behavior. Not every species communicates like us, but that doesn't mean we cannot understand them. Hours passed as they refined their methods. They discovered that a combination of the sphere and the cube could guide the object along a predictable path, slowing its approach and allowing the colony to prepare if necessary. Each adjustment required precision, careful observation, and trust in their reasoning. Kai marveled at Leora's calm authority. She did not panic, she did not guess blindly, she analyzed, hypothesized, and tested. Her hidden side, her brilliance, patience, and insight, was now fully revealed to him. He felt honored to witness it firsthand. Finally, the object stabilized in orbit near the outer edge of the colony. The energy pulses between it and the artifacts formed a mesmerizing pattern in the holographic projection. Kai felt a thrill of triumph. They had managed to observe and influence an unknown intelligence without conflict. Leora turned to him, her eyes gleaming with quiet pride. "Well done, Kai. You observed, analyzed, and adapted. That is why I asked for your help. Most would have ignored the patterns or assumed it was dangerous, but you saw the possibilities." Kai felt a surge of confidence. He realized that what they had achieved was more than a simple observation. They had demonstrated human ingenuity, creativity, and patience, qualities that no alien intelligence could predict. As night fell over the colony, the two of them stood side by side, watching the object hover silently. For a moment, the lab was quiet except for the soft hum of energy and the gentle flicker of holographic light. Kai finally understood. The shelves, the artifacts, the hidden patterns, everything had been preparation. Leora's hidden side was not just knowledge, it was a mindset, a way of seeing the universe and its mysteries with calm, curiosity, and precision. And now he was part of it. The mysterious object remained near the colony, a puzzle yet to be fully solved. But Kai felt ready. With careful observation, intelligence, and human ingenuity, he knew they could face anything the universe presented. And he knew, without a doubt, that he was learning from one of the finest minds he would ever meet. The colony's morning was unusually quiet, as if the entire station was holding its breath. Kai walked briskly toward the storage lab, his mind focused on the mysterious object that had settled near the outer edge of Solara Research Station. Yesterday had been a whirlwind of observation and discovery, but today would demand more. The object's presence was no longer just a curiosity, it required careful planning and quick thinking. When Kai entered the lab, he saw Leora already analyzing the holographic projection. The object hovered silently in orbit, its energy pulses interacting with the artifacts on the shelves. Every few minutes, the projection flickered as if the object was testing their understanding, waiting to see their next move. "Good morning, Kai," Leora said calmly, without looking up from the display. "We need to prepare for its approach closer to the colony. The patterns we observed yesterday give us some insight, but we must now predict its reactions to more complex stimuli." Kai nodded. "So we try to guide it using the artifacts." "Yes," she replied, "but carefully. The object is intelligent. Any sudden changes could cause it to act unpredictably. Observe first, then adjust. Trust the patterns." He felt a thrill of responsibility. The entire colony could be affected by how well they handled this situation. But Kai was not afraid. He had learned from Leora. Her calm, analytical approach was contagious. Together, they could tackle this unknown challenge. They began testing different combinations of artifacts. The sphere, the cube, and a small triangular device emitted pulses of light and energy that created a subtle field around the object. Each pulse prompted a reaction, a shift in orbit, a change in orientation, a delicate adjustment to its trajectory. Kai realized that they were not controlling the object but communicating with it. "It's like a conversation," he said, eyes wide with excitement. Each pattern is a word, each pulse a sentence. Leora smiled faintly. Exactly. Communication doesn't have to be verbal. It can be energy, movement, or even timing. Understanding patterns is what makes us human. It's what allows us to adapt, to solve problems where others see only chaos. As they worked, the object moved closer to the station. Sensors indicated it was now within the colony's outer defense perimeter. Officials had begun to notice its presence, and some were growing anxious. Kai could see the tension rising in the control room monitors. "We need a plan," Leora said. "The object will not stop unless it finds a reason. Our goal is to show it that humans are not hostile and to guide it safely without confrontation." Kai's mind raced. He thought of every lesson Leora had taught him: patience, observation, and adaptation. "We can use the patterns to create a path," he suggested. "A series of energy signals from the artifacts that leads it away from sensitive areas and closer to observation zones." Leora's eyes gleamed. "Good. That is precisely the kind of creative thinking we need. Humans excel when we combine intuition with analysis. Let's implement it." Together, they began arranging the artifacts to produce a flowing pattern of energy pulses. The sphere emitted a steady rhythm, the cube responded with subtle shifts, and the triangular device added a gentle modulation. The projection on the holographic display reacted immediately, showing the object adjusting its trajectory in response. Kai held his breath. Each pulse, each adjustment required careful calculation. Too much energy could startle the object, too little would not influence it. But they worked in perfect coordination, observing and adjusting with precision. Hours passed. The object's path began to follow the pattern they had created, moving predictably along a safe route around the colony. Officials monitoring from the control room were beginning to relax, though the situation remained tense. "Look at that," Kai said quietly. "It's responding exactly as we hoped," Leora nodded. "Yes, and notice how it reacts not just to individual artifacts but to the combination, patterns within patterns. This is how we understand intelligence beyond our own. Humans can do this because we notice subtleties, adapt quickly, and trust our reasoning. That is why we can handle situations that others cannot." Kai felt a deep sense of pride. He was part of something larger than himself. Together, he and Leora were demonstrating the very best of human ingenuity: observation, creativity, and collaboration. As the day progressed, they refined the pattern, adding subtle variations to test the object's responses. It reacted with remarkable precision, shifting, rotating, and even hovering in place as if acknowledging their signals. The colony watched in awe. "Do you think it understands us?" Kai asked, watching the projection. Leora considered for a moment. "Not in our language, not in our way of thinking, but it is learning from us, adapting to our signals and responding appropriately. That is understanding, that is intelligence, and that is why humans are remarkable. We can bridge gaps that seem impossible." Kai smiled. He realized that this was more than a scientific achievement. It was a demonstration of human adaptability and creativity. The alien object was responding to their ingenuity, proving that the mind, observation, and cooperation could overcome the unknown. Suddenly, the projection flickered. The object shifted more rapidly than before, testing the limits of their pattern. Kai's heart raced. "It's reacting faster. Should we adjust?" "Yes," Leora said calmly. "Observe first, notice the new pattern, then respond." They watched carefully. The object's movements were deliberate, yet predictable once they focused. Kai guided the sphere while Leora adjusted the cube and triangular device. Each pulse from the artifacts prompted a corresponding shift in the object's trajectory. Slowly, the rapid movements settled into a new pattern, one that brought the object closer to a designated observation zone safely away from the colony. Kai exhaled, feeling a rush of relief. They had done it. Through careful observation, creativity, and teamwork, They had influenced an intelligent, unknown being without confrontation or risk. Leora turned to him, her expression a mixture of pride and approval. "Well done, Kai. You adapted, observed, and contributed ideas. That is what makes humans unique. We can face uncertainty and find solutions where others might fail. That is our strength." Kai felt a surge of confidence. The hidden side of Leora, the patience, insight, and brilliance she had revealed, was now a part of his learning. He realized that the true power of humans was not just in knowledge or technology, but in creativity, observation, and cooperation. As the object stabilized in the observation zone, the colony erupted in cautious applause. They had witnessed something extraordinary, humans interacting with intelligence beyond their understanding and guiding it safely. Kai and Leora exchanged a quiet smile, sharing the satisfaction of a challenge met successfully. "That was incredible," Kai said, still in awe. "I've never felt anything like it. We actually influenced an alien intelligence safely." Leora nodded. "Yes, and we did it the human way. Observation, analysis, adaptation, and trust in our reasoning. That is what makes us remarkable. That is why humans are worth watching in the universe." Kai looked at the object hovering peacefully in the observation zone, then at the organized shelves filled with artifacts. He understood now that every artifact, every pattern, and every lesson Leora had shared was preparation for moments like this. And he knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new patterns, and new discoveries. For the first time, Kai felt fully confident in his place in the station, not just as a worker, but as a thinker, observer, and problem solver. And he knew that with Leora's guidance, he could face any unknown the universe presented, turning fear into curiosity and curiosity into understanding. The day ended with quiet satisfaction. The object remained in its safe position, responding predictably to their signals. The colony was safe, the mystery contained, and Kai had witnessed the full extent of Leora's hidden side: brilliance, patience, and leadership in action. As they closed the lab for the night, Kai realized something profound. Humans could adapt, learn, and collaborate in ways no other species could. That was the essence of their strength. And now he was part of it. The sun, or rather the station's artificial sunlight, rose over Solara Research Station, casting a golden glow over the corridors. Kai felt a strange mixture of excitement and anticipation as he walked toward the storage lab. The mysterious object had remained in its observation zone overnight, stable and responsive, but now it was time to uncover more. Today might finally reveal its purpose, and perhaps even teach them something entirely unexpected. When Kai entered the lab, he found Leora already at the holographic console. Her calm presence seemed to fill the room, giving him confidence. The alien object hovered silently in the observation zone, its pulses gently interacting with the artifacts they had arranged. It was a delicate rhythm, like a language Kai was only beginning to understand. "Good morning, Kai," Leora said without looking up from the projection. "Today we learn more, not just about its behavior but about how we humans can respond to the unknown. Observation has brought us this far, but understanding will take us further." Kai nodded. "I'm ready. What do we do first?" "We start with patience," Leora replied. "Then we analyze every response. Remember, the object reacts to patterns and energy. Let us see what it wants to communicate." Kai's excitement built as they began testing the artifacts once more. The sphere, cube, and triangular device emitted pulses in a coordinated sequence. The object responded immediately, hovering and spinning gently. Its energy pulses grew slightly brighter as if acknowledging their effort. "Look at the pattern," Kai said. "It's different, more complex than before." Leora studied the projection carefully. "Yes, it is adapting. It has learned from yesterday's interactions. That means it is not just reactive, it is intelligent, and that intelligence is learning about us, humans." Kai felt a shiver of awe. For the past few days, they had guided an alien intelligence safely and observed its behavior. But now it was clear that the object was not just an unknown phenomenon. It was capable of learning, of understanding patterns, of recognizing human ingenuity. Suddenly, the projection flickered, showing a small holographic shape forming above the object. It was subtle, like a shadow made of light, but clearly deliberate. Kai leaned closer. "Is that a signal?" "Yes," Leora said softly. "I believe it is. It is trying to communicate, not with words but with energy patterns, and we are finally in a position to understand it." They spent hours decoding the pulses. Each shift in light and energy seemed to correspond to a concept: observation, curiosity, intelligence, and, most surprisingly, respect. The object was acknowledging their efforts, their intelligence, and their ability to solve problems. Kai's mind raced. It recognizes us as intelligent beings, like us. Leora nodded, her eyes gleaming. "Exactly. That is the most important lesson. Humans are remarkable because we can observe, adapt, and understand the unknown. Even when faced with something beyond our experience, we can communicate, collaborate, and create solutions." As the day progressed, they refined their interactions. The object moved closer to the lab, following their energy patterns precisely. Kai realized that it was testing boundaries, exploring not just the station but human behavior itself. "This is incredible," he whispered. "It's learning about us as we learn about it." "Yes," Leora said, "and that is why humans are unique. Our intelligence is not just in what we know, but in how we respond, adapt, and collaborate. The object is witnessing that firsthand." By late afternoon, they had guided the object to a stable orbit near the colony's central observation hub. Officials and scientists watched in awe as the object performed a series of complex maneuvers, seemingly synchronized with the energy pulses from the artifacts. Kai turned to Leora. "Do you think it understands that we are human?" Leora smiled faintly. "Not as we understand ourselves, but it recognizes intelligence, adaptability, and problem-solving. That is enough. That is why humans can thrive in the universe. That is why humans are worth observing." Kai felt a surge of pride. All the lessons Leora had taught him, the patience, observation, analysis, and creativity, had culminated in this moment. They had guided an unknown intelligence safely, discovered its patterns, and proven that human ingenuity could bridge gaps that seemed impossible. Suddenly, the object pulsed brightly, sending a wave of energy through the room. The holographic projection shifted, displaying a series of intricate symbols. Kai recognized the structure immediately. It was not random. It resembled the way humans create logical patterns, like a puzzle or a message. "It's communicating," Kai exclaimed. "It's sending a message." Leora's eyes widened slightly. "Yes, and we can understand it because we approach the unknown logically, with patience and creativity. Humans are capable of seeing patterns in chaos, of finding solutions in uncertainty. That is why it is responding to us." They carefully interpreted the symbols. The message was simple but profound: acknowledgement of intelligence, recognition of adaptability, and respect for problem-solving. The object was effectively giving them a sign of trust. Kai's heart raced with excitement. "It's like it respects us," Leora nodded. "Yes, Kai. That is the moment humans live for, when our curiosity, intelligence, and ingenuity are recognized, even by something entirely different from us. That is human strength." For the first time, Kai fully understood the meaning of their efforts. It had not been just about observation or guiding the object. It had been about demonstrating the very qualities that made humans remarkable: adaptability, collaboration, patience, and creativity. The colony officials, once anxious, now looked on in awe. Scientists whispered to each other about the object's responses, noting how humans had interacted without fear, aggression, or miscalculation. The event was more than a scientific milestone. It was a testament to human capability. Kai turned to Leora. I think we've shown them what humans can do. Yes, she said, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. And remember, Kai, this is just the beginning. Humans will face countless unknowns. The universe is vast and full of mysteries. But if we approach it like this, carefully, creatively, and collaboratively, there is nothing we cannot understand or achieve. As the sun set over the station, Kai looked at the object hovering in the observation hub. It pulsed gently, a quiet acknowledgement of the partnership they had formed. For Kai, it was more than an alien interaction. It was a lesson in humanity, a reminder of what humans could achieve when intelligence, curiosity, and patience came together. Leora turned to him one last time that evening. You did well, Kai. You observed, adapted, and contributed. You saw patterns, responded creatively, and learned quickly. That is what humans do best. Remember this lesson. It will take you far. Kai felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Not only had he helped guide an alien intelligence safely, but he had also witnessed firsthand the hidden brilliance of his boss. Leora's calm, patient, and insightful mind had taught him more than any manual or lecture ever could. He realized that humans were capable of greatness, and with guidance, collaboration, and curiosity, they could rise to meet any challenge. As he left the lab, Kai glanced back at the glowing artifacts and the hovering object. Everything about this experience had changed him. He had seen patterns, discovered intelligence, and understood that humans were extraordinary not because of their tools or technology alone, but because of their minds, their creativity, and their ability to work together. Walking through the corridors of the station, Kai felt a new sense of purpose. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, but he was no longer intimidated. With curiosity, observation, and ingenuity, humans could face anything, even intelligence far beyond their own. And somewhere in the quiet hum of the station, the alien object pulsed gently, acknowledging the humans who had approached it not with fear or force, but with understanding, patience, and brilliance. Kai smiled. He had seen the hidden side of his boss, discovered the power of human intelligence, and witnessed the universe itself respond to it. The adventure was far from over, but he was ready for whatever came next. After all, humans were meant to explore, adapt, and thrive. That was their strength, that was their story.